All right there, everyone. The chief Brexit negotiator in Brussels is admitting that the populist uprising represented by Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage will ultimately destroy the EU. That's what we'll be talking about on today's video. I found a fascinating interview with one of the EU's chief negotiators that's highly revealing in that it shows what globalists really believe is going to happen if there's a successful Brexit. And let's just say they're panicked. More on that in just a moment. But first, as you know, we on this channel are huge advocates of voting our values with our wallets. And we often talk about supporting businesses that support our values. But there's another way to vote your values with your dollars. And that is with your investment dollars. And that's where our good friends American Values Investments comes in. American Values Investments is specifically designed to give investors the opportunity to own stocks of companies that they believe best reflect our fundamental conservative values. It's not just about avoiding objectionable companies. It's about targeting companies that best reflect the traditional values that have made America good and therefore great. Now, of course, there's plenty of risk in the stock market, and our ad does not constitute an endorsement. But if you want to learn more about their patriotic investment strategies, then check them out at AmericanValues.com or click on the link below. All right, I think we're seeing the real reason why there's so much chaos going on across the pond in the attempt to sabotage the full implementation of Brexit. The British paper, The Times, published a story a couple of months back that revealed the extent of the panic that's been going on amongst our globalist elite. The chief Brexit negotiator in Brussels is a guy by the name of Guy Verhofstadt. I know many of you are familiar with him, unfortunately. He's the former prime minister of Belgium before he became a leader in the European Parliament. He is a globalist par excellence. In many ways, he is the face of the international deep state, okay? He's been the chief negotiator, perhaps we should say the chief dictator for the European Union in the Brexit negotiations back with Theresa May, the former Prime Minister of Britain. I came across an older interview that he gave to the Times. Again, this is a British paper, not the New York Times. I came across this older interview when Theresa May was still in power, okay? It was before the European parliamentary elections, just a week or so before, and he spoke, shall we say, rather candidly with the Times, what he thought of the rising populist movement in Britain as represented by Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage. And when he was giving the interview here, Johnson was only a name that was being considered at the time as a replacement for Theresa May. May was already falling apart. Listen to what he had to say in the interview. Remember, this is the chief Brexit negotiator for Brussels. Quote, "What the Boris Johnsons, the Farages, the Le Pens, and others represent is huge. If European politicians don't show direction for the future, then we will fall massively back into nationalism, populism, Euroscepticism. If there are not Europeans who can transcend with a vision of a new EU, then if not in 2019, then in 2024, they, the populists, will take over the EU and destroy it." He believes that people like Boris Johnson will eventually destroy the EU. This is coming from Guy Verhofstadt, the chief Brexit negotiator for the EU. Now do you see what's going on in Westminster? The globalists are absolutely panicked that Brexit, a successful Brexit, really is the death knell for the EU. I don't know you, but look, Verhofstadt actually campaigned in Britain in the weeks leading up to the European parliamentary elections. I don't know how many of you knew that. He campaigned for the Liberal Democrats, and he urged Britons to back what he called the true party of Remainers. And he said that a victory for the Liberal Democrats would be a sign from Britain to the rest of the world to reject the populist trap and embrace the future of the EU. Unfortunately for Verhofstadt, the newly formed Brexit Party went on to win 1 out of every 3 seats throughout the nation. Actually, in some parts of Britain, the Brexit Party, particularly in the north, they won upwards of 1 of every 2 seats. So I guess Britain sent a very different message, as did the Tories when they overwhelmingly elected Boris Johnson as Prime Minister. What I find so revealing about this interview is that it demonstrates precisely what's going on among the globalist sympathizers in Westminster this past week, right? They are panicked, gang. They're absolutely panicked. They really believe that a successful Brexit is the precursor to the eventual fall of the EU. And so that's why you have all of this chaos in the halls of Westminster. As you know, we've been following it, this crisis, all week here. 21 Tory members, the so-called Tory rebels, defected and voted with Labour in favor of scrapping the possibility of a no-deal Brexit on October the 31st. And what this means is that if you rule out a no-deal Brexit, then you've effectively ruled out Brexit itself. As others have pointed out, if no deal is off the table, then all Brussels has to do to keep Britain in the European Union is continue to offer unreasonable and intolerable terms. And so Boris fired those 21 Tories. And so these 21 Tories will not be allowed to run as Tories, as Conservatives in the next election. And that's exactly what Boris called for, snap elections, which the House of Commons and the Lords have just so far rejected. You need 2/3 vote in Parliament to hold fresh elections. And even though both Labour and the Liberal Democrats have been screaming for new elections for the past several months, they've looked at the latest polls and they found that the Conservatives are pouncing Labour. Britain Elects has the Conservatives 33% support, while Labour's about 26%. So they're not budging on the election issue. And so Labour actually rejected the call for new elections. Now, this is where things get absolutely awesome, in my opinion. The British public is seeing right through this, okay? They're seeing through the absurdity of the Labour position, all this. They're seeing it. There was a clip on Twitter. It went viral on Twitter from a BBC host, if you could believe it. Just the last 24 hours. A BBC reporter in front of a live audience asking a Labour Party member to explain how it is that they are both putting forward their own Brexit plan on the one hand and then calling for a new referendum on the other. And the reporter was like, how does that not amount to a referendum on rejecting your own plan? And the audience just laughed. Will you campaign for your own Brexit deal, right? Or will you campaign to remain, which will reject your own Brexit deal? Which is it? And the Labour Party member who just stammered through her answer demonstrated how absurd their position is. This is why pundits are saying more and more that Boris has let the genie out of the bottle. There is going to be a general election at some point before the end of the year. Voters aren't stupid. They see what's going on. The firing of the 21 Tories has made a majority government impossible, which requires a new election before the end of the year. And already we're seeing a Conservative Party and Brexit Party alliance, which I think Nigel Farage is right in saying will be unstoppable. There will be an election. Brexit will happen. And so the only question that remains is this: was Guy Verhofstadt right? Will the EU be the next to fall? Now, before you go, we just loaded up a video detailing how a prominent leftist liberal is calling for the racial segregation of colleges, if you can believe this, okay? Cultural Marxists are more and more sounding like the racial segregations that they claim to despise. And what I do in the video is I show you how this renewed call for racial segregation is in point of fact turning the world more and more to the nationalist populist right. So you're not going to want to miss that. So click on that thumbnail at the top left of the video and I'll see you over there. God bless.